All right, let's now welcome in studio our international news editor, Ms. Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, a very good afternoon to you. Has there been any reaction from the continent at this stage?
Well, I saw the Foreign Affairs Minister of Kenya indicating that he has spoken to the Foreign Affairs Minister of Russia, that is Sergei Lavrov. And Lavrov did promise him that everything will be under control. But when you look at messages and reports and also online, what's coming from Russia is that it looks like this group is adamant that they are marching to Moscow and they will arrive in Moscow. But we also saw reports that currently they are beefing up security in Moscow, and we also saw the reports and also the visuals of a plane leaving Moscow because President Vladimir Putin was in Moscow. We don't know where the plane is headed to because the radar couldn't really follow up to where it's going. And we are told that President Putin earlier on spoke to the president of Turkey. You know, he's an ally. He was involved in brokering that agreement between Turkey, Ukraine, and also the United Nations in relations with the Black Sea agreement, where you are able to move the grain from Ukraine and also fertilizers from Russia to needy countries. And the second issue is that it looks like President Putin is still adamant that he will be able to resolve this issue. I have tried to communicate with the spokesperson of President Cyril Ramaphosa, but you know that the president was in France, and I don't know whether they've landed back in the country or they are still traveling back to South Africa. You know that the president and other heads of state visited Kyiv and also St. Petersburg now recently with the intention to ensure that they bring the two countries together so that they can find a way to negotiate a peace settlement. And therefore, for now, that's all what we know in terms of the developments in Russia in relation to Africa.
You know, Sophie, I was actually questioning the timing of all of this. I mean, interestingly enough, this just happened at the back of that African delegation, as you've just mentioned there. What does this then mean for the African heads of states, the peace mission that is still expected to continue engaging Ukraine and Russia?
It is posing a problem, or perhaps it will make it easy for the leadership to be able to engage President Putin. Whether you like it or not, right now he has to listen because he's got a problem in the country. That rebellion is very dangerous. And this group was the main group that was fighting Ukraine. And he was using this private military or force backed by the Russian military. Therefore, I think they will be able to engage him to say, can you perhaps tone down? Let's find a way to engage with Ukraine. On the other hand, it might worsen the situation because who are you going to negotiate with now? Are you going to negotiate with the two groups, that is the military and President Putin, and also not leaving out the Wagner because they were at the forefront, they were in the front line.
And Sophie, I mean, Russia is expected to host the Africa-Russia summit next month. What impact do you think this will have on that summit?
It is very difficult to really make sense of what's likely going to happen with that summit because the summit is expected to take place in St. Petersburg next month. And now you're counting weeks. And therefore, with the security challenges in Russia, already you had this problem of the war between Russia and Ukraine. Now you have internal conflict or civil war. Now you are going to have a problem. So it's not clear whether the meeting will continue. Let's see next week whether President Putin will be able to quell this rebellion.
And of course, at the back of this, Sophie, is of course the much anticipated and widely watched, reaction from South Africa about what will happen when it comes to August. Is South Africa going to or not going to host Putin? Will this affect President Putin's much awaited trip to SA, where he's expected to attend the BRICS summit, do you think?
You can't leave your country when there's instability and attend a meeting. That's my analysis and my view. already you have a problem in terms of how President Putin is supposed to travel when he leaves Russia. It is a lot of work in terms of security arrangement. Now, traveling so many miles away from Russia to down south, it is going to be a difficult one. And therefore, I don't know, but from my own analysis, taking into consideration the issue of security in and outside Russia, I can see President Putin flying to South Africa if this matter is not resolved. And when it's resolved, you are certain that this is a lasting solution. You are not going to see a situation where he leaves the country and then something happens.
And very quite back here at home, Sophie, just before I let you go, I mean, Nelson Chamisa is in Johannesburg, electioneering. Talk to us about the significance of him holding his election campaign here in Johannesburg.
You know, you have many Zimbabweans in the diaspora, and this dates back to his involvement within the MDC, where you had many people in the country. You had earlier on the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula talking about Zimbabweans in the country. And therefore, he is here to campaign because some of citizens of that country will be traveling back to Zimbabwe to cast their ballot. And therefore, he is hoping that he can strengthen his base, and this is an old base. And therefore, he is going to address those who have turned up at the rally in Germiston, but Kaya is there, will bring you that event and also deep into whatever he is going to say later today.
All right, we're certainly looking forward to that. Thank you so much. That is our international news editor, Ms. Sophie Mokoena, weighing in on the Russia issue, as well as Nelson Chamisa here in Johannesburg, electioneering.